minutes.
Okay.
Hey.
It's good music.
Yeah. Hello, Detroit. You are watching Beauty in the D, where we focus on power, wealth, and style. Hosted by yours truly, Stephanie Coney. I want to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. I want to give a shout out to Giovanni McCall, also known as G, the short hair slayer. Also a shout to Mina Martinez, who handles all of my social media marketing. And a special shout out to the London consulting firm that sponsors and powers this show. I have a very special guest this week. As every week, I never disappoint. I have Miss Renae Johnson, who is a proud HBC graduate from Alabama State University, a licensed real estate professional in the great state of Michigan for 16 years, also a broker for mature real estate services, an NID housing counselor, and the board chair for our illustrious Greater Detroit Realtors Association. Thank you and welcome, Renae Johnson, to Beauty and the D.
Thank you, Stephanie. This is great. That's my first time being on this show.
First time,
I'm
and it
feeling
won't
real
be the
special.
last.
I'm feeling real special.
Me too. Because we work so well together, we share common vision and common goals with our community, which
Yes,
is
ma'am.
promoting Black home ownership and building Black wealth. And we'll get to all of that, including the Building Black Wealth Tour, in just a second. But I want to talk about you and what made you decide to leave Detroit at such a young age and go to a HBCU and then major in your major, but then end up in real estate. It's like two different spectrums. So let's start with how you left up out of here to go to Alabama.
You know, I was 17 and I was told you need to go to college because you got to get a good job.
Mm-hmm.
So after I graduated, so it's a little bit more than that too. Back then, my mother was getting Social Security for me from my father.
Okay.
And so I ended up having to enroll in college early. I went to Lewis College of Business for like one semester to be able to keep my benefits that I was going to be able to use when I went to college.
Okay.
So, but when I ended up graduating a year early, I didn't know what I was going to do except I needed to go to college.
Mm-hmm.
So after doing that semester and working and going to school, you know, I did the Voc Tech. I went to Redford High School, went to Voc Tech. When I graduated early, I was like, well, you know what? And it wasn't because I was so smart. It's just I went to summer school. I went to night school. I had all these extra credits. And
so you've always been ambitious because you are like one of the most ambitious people on the board. Like,
I don't know about that ambitious.
Well,
but
yeah, you stay in a class. You stay like elevating. You're very ambitious. So this just didn't start. You were like that at 17.
But, you know, I kind of understood that that's probably what it was going to take for me to get to where I wanted to be because we lived in two sets of projects growing up. Like we lived in Smith Homes for a minute. We lived in Herman Gardens. And so when my mother first bought, you know, when she first bought our first house, I was like, wow, you know what? This is great. You know, and I saw just the passion and the proudness that she had and how it changed our life, right? She worked at my junior high school, and that was a whole nother story because the teacher...
So she kept an eye on you.
Oh, she didn't, you know what? But she didn't really have to keep an eye on me. I ran my mouth, but I didn't get into like a lot of trouble.
Okay.
So she knew, and then the teachers kind of took advantage of that because I would get put out of class for talking, but nobody else would get put out because their parent didn't work there. So I had to go get my mother to get back in class. Uh-huh. But that one math teacher that put me out the class was also my mother's real estate agent. So my mother saved that $600 and she bought that house for us. And it was a game changer seeing that it took us from the projects to our first home, but it still wasn't so great because that was during a time where most of old Redford area it was not mixed. So when we moved to the neighborhood, they didn't want us there. It was really, you know, an eye-opener for us moving there and getting, you know, all kinds of just racial slurs, you know, they're writing on your garage. Wow. They're just doing all kinds of stuff to you, telling you to go back to where you came from. So we had to really fight to stay there. So just thinking about that and what my mother went through, when I got ready to get out of school, I said, okay, so what am I going to do? I did not want to stay in Detroit. I did not want to stay at home with my mom. I wanted my freedom because it's not like I didn't have freedom or I was kept up in the house or anything. My mother was she kind of let me do what I wanted to do, but I didn't do a lot.
Yeah.
She trusted that I would always do the right thing, which I felt like she should have had more restrictions on me just to give me the boundaries, right? So when I graduated, I said, well, I had been going to Alabama for every summer.
Okay.
My grandmother would take me and my aunt down there, and we would hang out with friends and family. So most of my family went to Alabama State.
Oh, okay.
And the year before, my aunt, who was the person that I always had to do everything that she did, because we're like, I think we're 15, 16 months apart.
Oh, so you're really more like sisters or cousins, but
we
but
grew
just
up as siblings like that.
Okay.
And I was always at my grandmother's, both grandmothers.
Okay.
Because I had another aunt that was 8 months older than me that we were tight on my dad's side.
Okay.
So I always had them. And when she went to Alabama State, I'm like, well, that's where I'm going because that's where she went.
Yeah.
So I went, and honestly, I didn't have no plan. I just knew I had to go to school. I had to get an education so that my goal was to never end up in the projects, back into the projects, to be able to sustain myself. And then, so I just said, I'm going to school. Didn't have a real clue what I was going to major in. I just said, I'm going to Alabama.
But how did you end up choosing computer information systems?
My best friend's father was a recruiter. And one day I called the house looking for her, and she wasn't there. And he says, oh, Robin tells me you're getting ready to go away to school. And I was like, yes, Mr. Gibson, I'm going to go away to school. He said, what are you going to major in? I said, I don't know. I took some computer data entry classes at the Voc Tech. I went to Randolph, Voc Tech. I took data entry classes. I took a couple little minor programming classes, and I took all business classes at Redford. So I said, well, I think I'm going to major in something business. And he said, EDI. I'm like, EDI? He said, yeah, electronic data interfacing, I think invoicing or interface or something like that. He said, EDI. And I said, okay. And he said, if you get a job in IT or major in IT, you will always find employment. You'll always be employed. He said, that's what the future is going to be, this electronic invoicing. And he kind of laid it out. And I said, you know what? And so when I went to school, I thought I was, I did that. I changed.
And not to cut you off, but he didn't lie, did he?
He did not.
It's on steroids now with
You
this
could-
AI
And cybersecurity. I have a couple of friends that do cybersecurity. They're calling me like, hey, we got this. And I said, y'all know I don't want to do no more IT work. And I thought about it. I said, well, maybe I could do a contract or something like that. But then now I have to go and learn all of the cybersecurity stuff because it's totally different from what I was actually doing with the last contract I had. I did more of field testing and certification for like engineer applications for like at Ford where they build the engineers that build the cars. They have a suite of applications that they use to build, to test, and to do their when they do recalls, they got to do kind of like redo different parts of the program to fix the cars. So I worked with the engineers that basically were the designers for the cars.
Okay.
So I tested their applications, did their implementations like worldwide because we had offices that we supported all over.
Yeah.
So I did that work, and it's like second, third level type of support because you're actually working with the vendors, you're working with the stakeholders and the business. You're kind of coordinating the whole testing, certification, and then the deployment, like how they get the applications, and then you had to make
sure. So that's a lot of steps. It's really it sounds like a lot of project management goes into that as well.
It is. And it's the same soft skills that you can carry anywhere. So it wasn't like a hard transition to go from IT into real estate. So, but I just knew, hey, I got my license years ago and I still worked, as a contractor. Just because I was just so comfortable with that. And then I was trying to build my reputation in real estate and get some things under my belt so that people actually knew who I was. And, I was known as the IT person that sold real estate. Some people knew I did real estate but didn't know that, I did the IT work. But it's the same for everybody, right? Everybody has multiple disciplines that they do. Or multiple streams of income, actually.
Multiple streams of income. And I'm glad that you said that. And to clarify that, like you said, I had to build a name for myself in real estate. Because a lot of people think that, Tanisha and I was talking about this last week. She came on and was like, this whole boom came where somebody told them it was a lot of money they could make in real estate. and then they just started jumping in and just not even really knowing the game, just doing stuff. But you said a key thing, like you wanted to build your name and your reputation first. It wasn't just about jumping in trying to make a coin. It was about
right. Because you can make a lot of money selling real estate, but you can also make a lot of money and have to hide because you did some bad deals. And when you're doing when people are taking their personal finances to buy a home, that's probably all they have.
Yeah,
you messed that deal up for them. They could be bankrupt, right? It's hard for them to recover. And so when we're talking about wealth building in our community, it's really important that you have some integrity.
Yes.
It's really important that you have people skills. It's really important that you understand the nuances and the issues, the challenges that people have in their day to day that keeps them from buying a home, or that keeps them not where they don't understand that they have options. So it's, for me, I had to understand the game. I had to understand
As
the people in the game, who to work with, who not to work with. And then
who your lenders are, your resources. Yes.
Because I went through the iterations. When I first got my license, it was booming, then it just tanked. Remember, people were going to jail.
Yeah.
The FBI was here investigating people. Then the market crashed with the Countrywide and the bank, like all of those places that were, just doing those bad deals.
Predatory lending, all of that. And then they didn't just do the predatory lending by themselves. They had to have an agent who was assisted to bring the deals to them in the first
agents, the lenders, the appraisers, all of those people they had. And I didn't understand this. I went to this session because the FBI said we're doing a session. We need people to understand how this works. I actually went to that little session they did. I don't know if it was Ann Arbor somewhere. And they went through the process of what they're looking for and how they're tracking these people doing these deals.
Oh, so they watching. They
were watching. So they had the bank records. So if you were the realtor that your name kept showing up on there with that lender, with that appraiser, they were looking at that whole matrix of people. And if your name was popping up with all of those folks, they were coming after you. And they talked about the fraud. They talked about all the straw buyers and the stuff that people were doing.
Yeah.
Even now, these fake deeds, it's starting to reappear, right?
I just saw a post about that, fraudulent deeds.
I've had 2 of them to come across me.
Can you talk about that real quick, please? It educated myself and the people watching on the fraudulent deeds.
So this particular case, it appears that they're targeting people who are potentially losing their property for taxes.
Okay.
So they're just going in, looking and grabbing the info and then doing a quick claim deed to somebody, selling it to them, and just,
Who is the they?
Whoever the fraudster is. Like you can go and look at the tax records and see a property and look at their, if they haven't paid their taxes, it shows up at on the treasurer's site, right? So, but it also shows up on like the deed, the tax foreclosure listing. So you can go out there and see what properties are coming up for tax sale, right? And so some of them may go in there and get them before, they actually hit the sale, right? They know that they're on the list, so they may go ahead and just get a quick claim deed and sell it to some unknowing person.
How are you able to get a quick claim deed on
because you can just write a quick claim deed. That's just how simple it is.
I had no idea.
I know your address. I could just go write a quick claim deed for Stephanie Coney's house.
I'm just like, wow. And then, so me, the owner, if I can't even say when, but if I found out that was something that happened, you got to go through all kind of channels to fix that.
Some people still don't recover from that. Others don't even know. Don't know, But it's like you have to monitor. It's just like your, identity theft.
Yeah.
You have to watch your information. Like I know when you pay your taxes, you can get a notification. I'm not certain if there is a notification that you can get when your property changes owners or something. I don't know, except through like the identity monitoring and stuff like that. I think they have that as a portion of their services where they'll monitor, your accounts, and if your deed, because I think that's part of that. But I don't know. That's something I said I needed to check into because I think people
Yes.
need to understand.
That's a conversation we need to have with our association as well. Like, that's huge.
Because somebody did do it. This one guy, they sold him 2 properties like that. And one of them was a really nice property. So when he went to the home, the owner was like, they stole my house. So he was like, what do you mean? No, I bought. He's like, no, they stole my house. I didn't sign nothing. I didn't, so he wasn't letting nobody in. And it was a very nice property, right? This guy was going to get his money probably 20 times over.
Wow.
And so even now, it's like it popped back up after I sent it to 2 title companies, had them investigate it. They told me, hey, here's what's going on. I had we all had a meeting, and somebody else ended up with that property, trying to sell it. It ended up being my cousin, ended up with that property on a wholesale deal. And when I saw it, I was like, dude, you gotta take that down. That thing is not gonna sell. I'm telling you, but you don't know, right? And you gotta have a good memory. You gotta watch out for things. And when you see something that's not right, you have to tell people. And this is always the type of real estate that I wanted to do. So when I got into the business, I was like, listen, I don't want to duck and dive from nobody. I don't want to be hiding in bushes.
You want to help people.
I want to help people, and I want to be able to walk wherever I want to walk, and I don't want nobody pointing at me saying, she did me a bad deal. Because you can make a lot of money in real estate, and you can do a whole bunch of deals. But are they good deals? Are they deals that you want your name or your company name associated with? And that's,
you want to sleep at. You want to sleep with.
And that's when you work with ethical brokers. And when I was going to real estate school, even my real estate instructor, she did fair housing. And we were in the class, and she was like, oh, when you leave my class, you're going to do real estate properly. If you don't, I'm coming for you myself. Because she said, no, I don't teach that type of and we had one guy in the class was always asking, like, well, what about this? And she said, if you ask me one more time, I'm going to put you out of this class because that is not how this business works.
Yep. I'm glad you brought that up, integrity. I do have to do our quick station ID shout out. You are watching Beauty in the D live, where we are streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and other social media platforms. So please like, follow, comment, and subscribe. And thank you for watching WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. And remember, you can call in live right now at 313-355-6018. We're here today live with Miss Renae Johnson, who is the broker of Mature Real Estate Services, NID counselor, and the board chair for the illustrious Greater Detroit Real Estate Association. I don't know why I got tongue-tied there. So I want to talk about you a little bit more before we delve back into the real estate. And thank you so much you have educated me today on the whole fraudulent title thing. I didn't even realize that it could happen and just that quick. So you graduated from an HBCU in Alabama. I know you got much love for Detroit, but moving and living in another place, it helps you to have a different perspective on different places. You know what I mean? Some people never left Michigan, So it helps you to have a different perspective on life, different demographics. What happened after you graduated in Alabama?
So I lived there for 8 years. I actually stopped going to school for 3 years because I bought a car. I had to get a job. I actually had to work to pay the rent, the car note, the insurance. So I stopped going to school. I had a full-time job. And then I realized that the South Alabama was just not going to be for me. And that I went to Alabama to go to school.
Not to
live. So there was a series of things that happened to me, and I felt like, you know what? I would not work here for the rest of my career. I'm not going to live in Alabama for the rest of my life, so I need to just get it together. So I ended up getting fired from that job, and I said, okay, that's fine. I got me a job as an assistant manager at a Pizza Hut delivery, and I actually was able to go to school, go to work, go back to take a night class, and then go back to work to close the store down.
That's determination.
So that's what I did. In my last year and a half, I took like 18 hours plus I worked, and I said, I'm getting out of here. I'm leaving, and I was dating this guy, and he was going to California. So he graduated the year before I did. And then we drove across the country to get him settled in
that's a cute
California.
story.
And then I came back and went to school, finished up school, and then when I got ready to
What part of
graduate,
California?
he went to the East Bay,
Okay.
San Jose.
Okay.
So he went there, and then I came back, went to school. I finished, and then I came home for 2 months. And I was like, well, you know what? No, I'm not going to stay here. I had a little job. I was working. I was trying to sort out, well, you know, I think I really need to go to California. That's what I plan to do. So I went to California, got a job as a business instructor, teaching accounting, job hunting skills, computer classes. I did like the whole thing. It was like a trade school for people who were underemployed or unemployed. You know, they got money from the state to attend, you know, to get some job skills. So I did that, and then I got a job at the University of California in their IT, and back then they were doing like remember the bulletin boards?
Yeah.
I had to monitor and manage their bulletin board because that's how they communicated. Like that was like the email back then.
Yeah, you go look and see what's thumbtacked on the board.
So I did that, and then, you know, emails started coming in. So that's when I started like learning like how, you know, Windows and Word.
You watched this stuff evolve.
I watched it evolve, and then I worked for Hitachi.
Okay.
They had like all platforms, and they were like, this was the Hitachi that built the memory chip.
Okay.
And then, you know, they had another division. I think they did hard drives or something like that. So I worked with Hitachi that did the memory. And so I supported like 2 of their offices, and it was like a really fun job. And it was California. It was laid back. It was relaxed. You didn't have to dress up to go to work. Your hours were flex time. And then even the whole California has always been laid back, and it was really more of my speed. Like, I'm a laid back, relaxed person. I try not to get upset or just be worried about all the stuff. You know, even when stuff is bad, I'm just like, hey, you know what? I'm gonna have to find a way to get through it. Yeah. But I'm not going, you know, I'm not gonna let it take me down, or I'm just, you know. But I loved California. Like my spirit was like California. It was me riding my bike all year round, you know, just living, like, and I didn't do a lot, like, you know, but I just had just it was like one season all year round, right? I could ride my bike, you know, it wasn't much rain, no crickets, you could sleep with the windows open, you know, it was like totally different. Yeah. But I enjoyed it. The people were from everywhere, but I had a lot of family that originated from Alabama. You know, their parents moved there, and then most, you know, they were all born there. But they were the coolest folks, and I hung out with them. I made, you know, and we had our own little family of people. I joined a church, and I still have friends from that church.
Oh, okay. And then you some way moved back to Detroit.
I went to Maryland.
Oh, girl, you've been all around.
I wasn't ready to come back home.
So you left. Now that's a big change from Cali to Maryland.
Because I wasn't ready to come home, and I saw this Baltimore skyline, and I was like, I want to live in Baltimore. So I went to visit. I stayed and hung out for a minute. I was going up to New York and all those places. My aunt lived in Philly, so I could go hang. You know, I was hanging out with her. I was like, okay, this could work. It's closer to home, and if I needed to go home, it was 7.5 hours away. Yeah. So it wasn't so far as being way out in California where nobody was coming to see me.
All right.
So I just got a job, and they paid for me to move to Maryland.
Okay, yeah.
But I ended up going to Gaithersburg. I didn't go to Baltimore.
Okay.
And actually something was just like, nope, I got a job in Germantown. I worked in Gaithersburg, and then I stayed in Gaithersburg like the whole time I was there.
So how long were you there?
6 years.
Okay, and then you came back to Detroit.
Then I came back because I was doing IT consulting with this services company. And I took another job with this company in Canada. They were in Toronto. That was a fun experience because every month I had to go to Toronto for work, and then we went to different locations to support our technology. And they were also a company that had a main office in Israel. So it was like those two cultures plus the Americans, like learning how to work and navigate in those cultures. So I did that, and then they had a massive layoff. Like after a year, they laid like the sales team. I was part of the sales team. They just laid us all off. So, and I said, okay, well, you know what? I got to come back home.
Mm-hmm.
So I came back home and I started working at Ford. Then I got a contract at Sears in Illinois.
Okay.
I did that for about a year. Then I came back. I worked for Ford again. I actually stayed and worked at Ford like the whole time.
Okay,
Like
so your
12,
passion
13.
though is here. Really?
Home.
It's no place like home. I'm like you. I've had the opportunity to live several different places, and I'm very thankful and appreciative for those experiences. But it's no place like being in the D.
I run into family all the time, and folks are like, that can't be your cousin. We was out last week, and you ran into somebody and said that was your family. I said, you don't know. My dad's the oldest of 18, so it's probably about 60, 70 first cousins, 60, 70 second cousins, and then the third cousins, you know, it was like I think my dad it was about 7 or 8 of them, and so all my cousins, and I'm like, no, really, these are my cousins.
Right.
I know these people because I see these people all the time. I grew up with most of these people, so I know that they're my cousins, and it's like my friends are like, I just cannot imagine having that many people. Whereas in Maryland and California, I would run into family, you know, periodically.
Yeah, but not like.
But not like this. I go to the grocery store. I'm at church.
Right.
You know, at a movie theater, at the park. It's like.
They like, hey, Renae, because everybody know you in the D. For real. But real quick, since you lived in Baltimore, what you think about that bridge that collapsed?
That was interesting. And being a boater, you kind of understand if your engines go out, you don't have much control. If you can't drop an anchor to stop that mug from moving, you don't really have control, because in something big like that, they have to actually start stopping 4 or 5 miles
prior
back.
to.
Yes, because remember, boats don't have no brakes. And if your engine isn't running, that means you can't go forward or back.
Right.
You're going where the water's going to the wind is going to guide you. And so if you're not able to turn really, you know, it's hard. I don't know the full story of that. But as I watched it, I was like, okay, there's coming in there. And I didn't see where that person would, if I'm assuming that if they had started, if the engines had failed a way back, then maybe they would have had an opportunity to try to turn it early, you know, to turn it around. But that's still not to say that the wind wouldn't drift it back, right? Because whichever way the current is going, that's the way that the boat's going to go.
Right.
The ship or whatever, right? And that's a big, you know, that was a big deal.
Yes, it was. And the way it collapsed, I was looking at it, Renae, like, it looked like Lego. You know what I mean? Like,
well, because
Lego
that ship,
falling.
that thing was huge, right? What hit it was huge.
Yeah.
And then you're saying, you know, and I was like, I saw it, I was like, wow, and I just felt sorry for, you know, those people that lost their lives. And, you know, they found 2, they haven't found the other 4. So, you know, we pray for the families of them, absolutely. Because that's, you know, that's a hard thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's just, you know, you can't, just like with a car, with a truck, you know, you have to, you know, safety is always important, and you have to have, you know, an understanding of how to operate the vessel, you know, in the point where you lose, you know, it's like your tire blowout, or, you know, in the car, if you've ever lost power steering.
Yeah.
You know?
So I'm sure you was on the phone with some of your people from Baltimore, like, oh my God.
I have not talked to anybody.
Oh, you haven't yet? Okay. Yeah.
Nope. They just, you know, for them, there's so much other stuff going on.
It is.
I have not, because this last week, being busy with the project.
Yes, let's get right into that. So, being a part of AJIDRA, we have our, which is an extension of NARAB, the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. We have Real Estate Realtors Week coming up. And it is, you see I'm rocking my shirt. Michigan Realtors are great.
Michigan Realtors, we always,
are great.
Our tagline for one of our parades was, the Great Region 8, Michigan is our state.
Hey, I like it. this is our Christmas, and you have been very instrumental with putting this together. We have events all next week, kicking off tomorrow. And one of the big, everything is big. For our Fair Housing Brunch, everything that we have going on is big. But what's really huge is Saturday, our Building Black Wealth Tour. Because that is, we're participating, but this is a 100 city community impact day. So let's talk about that, because you have put a lot of work into Saturday. And you have a lot of heavy hitters that will be participating in this day.
Yes. This planning, they usually start with this planning in November.
Yeah,
right?
This is huge.
Because it's huge. And so this year, and I really love the story that our national president, Courtney Johnson Rose, Dr. Courtney Johnson Rose, when she talked about the Building Black Wealth Tour and how that came to be the 100 City Community Impact Day, because we do the Building Black Wealth Tour, we call it a Community Wealth Building Day. Every Realtors Week on that one Saturday, anyone that's participating pretty much in Realtors Week will always have a Community Wealth Building Day, something that they do in the community. So we've done it here, in Detroit for as long as I can remember.
And we do it big in Detroit. Let me just give a shout out
being
for that.
a member.
Because last year we did it big. We had our Madam President at that time, Madam Lydia Pope. She came in and joined us for our...
and the year before that,
Who do we have the year before that?
She was here too the year before.
Oh, she was here. Yep. So we do it big in Detroit. And then this year you have initiated the help of Madam Dr. Courtney Rose.
Well, actually, she put it out there. They came up with the toolkit. They put all of the documentation and everything we needed out there to go market, the flyers, and so we got lucky. We honestly got lucky because we're in Detroit, and they have these MOUs with organizations. So what her passion is, the partnerships and the networking, right?
Yes.
Because this is what it takes in our community for us to do what we do, which is where we want to bridge the gap for home ownership, right? Because blacks are behind. We're behind in numbers, and we always say we don't even want to hear about the numbers anymore because it's really depressing when we talk about them. So we just said, instead of talking about it, we're going to be about it. And how to be about it is we're getting out here and we're making an impact, right? So, and I love when she told the story, she said, well, we've thought about if we could do 36 cities, we could do 50. If we could do 50, we could do 75. If we could do 75, we could do 100, right? That conversation. And then when she got with the Bishop Sheard, who is the presiding bishop of the Church of God in Christ, right? So they have these MOU with the Church of God in Christ. They have one. They're working on one, I think, with the AME Church.
Oh, yeah.
They have the African American Mayors Association, Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Phi Alpha. I think they're working on something with Phi Beta Sigma. They had the National Bar Association, and there's a couple more that they're working with to sign the MOUs. And then at the HBCUs and some of our housing counseling meetings, they're talking about how they're going into the HBCUs and doing housing counseling and financial literacy, helping college graduates to understand not only are you going to school, but you got to manage your money so when you get out, you get a job, you can buy a house, you won't be burdened with the you may have student debt, and they're going to calculate it and how much you have to pay and all of that is going to count against you, but you still want to be able to get out, get a job, and be able to buy a house and not.
And that's excellent right there. And you know why I say that? Because a lot of us, we talk, to go to college, graduate so you can get a good job. But nobody, they tell us get a good job. But nobody tell us about the building, the wealth part. And building wealth can start right with becoming a homeowner. Having something with some equity in it. I do have to do our station ID real quick, but you're watching Beauty and the D live streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and other top social media platforms. So like, comment, follow, subscribe, and thank you for watching WJZZ, the coolest station in the world. And remember, you can contact us right now at 313-3 355-6018. And we're here today with Miss Renae Johnson, who is a broker for Mature Real Estate Services, as well as NID counselor and board chair for the illustrious Greater Detroit Realtors Association. So, yes, I think that is just fabulous, starting with the college grads. So they didn't instill that with
No, I went to college, and you know the
HBCU too.
credit card companies come on campus, and they have you fill out all these cards, and you come out of there, you have 4 or 5 credit cards, and you don't have no money in college most times
And they know that.
we didn't have no jobs. I mean, you know, I worked.
Yeah,
at the
work
grocery
study.
store. I had
Yeah.
a job at the pizza place. I mean, working at Domino's. I worked at the grocery store. And I didn't have no idea. My family didn't teach me about managing money. They just said, don't spend all your money and don't go into debt. But they didn't take me to the bank to get a bank account, show me how to balance a checkbook. They all said, don't do this and don't do that. And I said, this is where we have to change that, right? Instead of telling people what not to do, show them the options that they have, that they can do other things to get them where they're trying to go, right?
So talk about your NID counseling.
So the
How does it tie
NID,
into that?
so this is all tied together simply because when we doing this 100 City Community Impact Day, we took the regular community wealth building day where we did the housing counseling. We talked about buying a home. We talked about, down payment assistance. We talked about the inspection, the closing process, and title. Excuse me. They've taken that day and put it on steroids. We're going to have one-on-ones with attorneys. You can talk to the lenders. You'll also be able to have the conversation with the housing counselors. We're going to have some sessions for that day. We're going to be able to sign you up for the home buyer education. If you're interested in purchasing a home and you're going to apply for down payment down payment dollars. We're going to have a community expo. So this is all happening from 9:30 to 3 o'clock.
Okay.
And
give the location, Renae.
19190 Schaefer Highway, and it's at Greater Emmanuel Institutional Church of God in Christ. And when I say we got lucky, because the bishop is the presiding bishop, the bishop is the bishop that's on all our flyers around the U.S. So we're doing this at his church here in Detroit. So when I say we got lucky, we got the bishop, we got the church, and there's videos out there promoting him and our national president talking about this event, talking about why we're doing this event, why we're in the community, why we decided to look at the barriers that people were having.
Yes.
Those challenges were stopping them for going and applying for a mortgage, not understanding that you had options. Even with low credit scores, you can build those scores back up, right? Even with a bankruptcy, when you come out of bankruptcy, you can still buy a house afterwards.
You still gotta live somewhere.
You still have to live.
And at the end of the day, you're gonna pay a mortgage one way or another,
But-
either someone else's or your own.
Right.
So how can people who are listening or watching us right now and they want to come and get involved with the Building Black Wealth Tour, be a participant, how can they
I am
contact us?
so happy you asked, because let me tell you, we're going to have a fun-filled day, and
Yes.
you do not want to miss the ABCs of home buying. Where's the money? We're going to talk about where is the money. And get this, if you live in a home that your parents owned or your grandparents owned, or you will will this house, you don't know what to do with it, we have a topic called What to Do with Big Mama's House.
What to do with Big Mama's house? Because you got so many people that just let Big Mama's house go or almost give it away.
Yeah, you can take it, and when we're talking about building wealth, you'll be able to discuss what your options are. Maybe you keep it, maybe you sell it, maybe you rent it out, maybe you leverage it to open a business, maybe you have to get in contact with the rest of your family members to tie down who actually owns it, right?
Right.
People fight over taxes. People fight over who's going to live in a house. People fight over who, mama left me the house, but yeah, mama didn't put it to you in a will. You got the house. Mama didn't leave a will. Do I still have to go to probate?
Right.
So those are the types of things that we're planning to cover.
Yes.
So we're going to be doing this, and like I said, it's 19190 Schaefer Highway, and you can register at our website, which is Greater Detroit Realtist, REALTIST, Greater DetroitRealtors.com, or you can go to NARAB Black Wealth Tour, and that would be www.NAREBBLACK Wealth, WEALTH Tour, TOUR, NARAB Black Wealth Tour.com. And when you scroll down, you'll find our city, Detroit, Michigan. You'll find the Greater Detroit Realtors. You click on that, it's going to open up into an Eventbrite, and then you just register. We're asking people to register because we want to track who's registered. When you come in, we're going to ask you to check in, because we want to track the people that are coming, and we want to be prepared and have enough volunteers, snacks and things like that, so that we can really, make an impact. So our goal is, to deliver these services, to make sure that if you need to talk to an attorney, we've made contact with the National Bar. They're going to send some people out to help us. They're going to be on a panel. The banks are going to be there in that expo. We're going to have a lady in there that does the Section 8 conversion to Section 8 home ownership, like folks with those vouchers.
Really?
That we're going to have
Everybody
a lady
needs to be here.
A lady that does helps you with your credit repair. We're going to have a lady from Fresh Perspective. She talks about where to find money for college. So if you have kids going to college, you need some money. Actually, she has a webinar, or no, a session tomorrow somewhere. I can't think of it, but she's on Facebook. But her company is Fresh Perspective. We're going to have title companies, inspectors. We have a guy that knows about the 203K program. So if you get pre-approved for a home and you want to buy a house that needs some rehabbing, stepping you through that process with your loan and getting your contractor estimates and being able to get a loan that way, because we have low inventory. So where can we find other homes?
Right.
Pre-existing homes. If it's a land bank, if it's the house next door to you that has been in disrepair for the last 5 years or a year or so, you want to buy it. So there's so many other options, that people don't know. So what we're doing is we've tried to look at all the challenges. Oh, there's a gentleman from a company, Friends of Fathers. They help men who are having, challenges with child support, help them kind of get that in order, because a lot of times men, want to buy homes too, right? And if you have child support hanging over your head, how do you balance that out and get that underway so that you can have your finances together to go out and to be able to qualify for a home, right? Yeah. So we're looking at, we tried to look at, every time somebody called or I saw somebody, I was like, hey, I think that would be a good service. And when people recommended services, I was like, hey, we need to put that as part of what we're going to do on Saturday. So
there is no stone left unturned for this upcoming, in 7 days, people.
It may be, but I just said, hey, you know what? What I know about, I put it in there and I asked people like, hey, what do you think? And I know I didn't cover everybody. There were some people that we did miss, and I'll apologize now because I kind of picked up the task a little late and getting going, but there's so many moving parts to this, and every time I'm on a call, they're adding another sponsor. They're saying we're providing this service. They're saying after we get this done, this is going to happen.
Yes.
So, and the press releases went out yesterday and today, so we're going to send those out to our local politicians and community activists, anyone in the community. So at 9:30 a.m. on Saturday, April 13th, we want people to show up. Be there for the opening ceremony to celebrate us, celebrating our community and helping our community. And we're going to kick this bad boy off at 9:30. At 10 o'clock, the sessions are going to start. The expo is going to be open, and it's free. We just want you to register, get there, get the information, and be on the road to building that wealth. And they put this has been a challenge because it's so big from a NARAB standpoint, and when they said they put it together, they're saying, hey, we're going to do this again next year.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, I'm already tired now, and I'm like, but at least I understand what next year is going to be like. And by them having a toolkit and everything, it's going to be perfected. So that when next year comes,
every year
we're going to know. But you know what? I just go based on what I can get from other people.
But you still put a lot of energy. And if nobody else have told you, I'm going to tell you right now today in front of everybody. Thank you, Renae. Thank you for your dedication to this organization. Thank you for your dedication to our community and helping people to realize the importance of Black home ownership. And thanks for all you do, because you go hard with it. You know what I'm saying? Like, you really do. As far as giving your time, your energy, and bringing your expertise and experience, you do very well with that. And thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Mm-hmm. It's a challenge sometimes because you're doing your personal life, your volunteer work, then your business, like you got to eat, right? But a lot of it is tied together, right? Because I'm helping friends, I'm helping family.
Yes.
I'm actually building my business because of my...
Talk about your business. What do you do over at Mature Real Estate Services?
I'm a real estate broker. Mm-hmm. And I'm just really focusing on buyers, sellers, investors, but I do
personal and commercial.
Yes, I do like the small. Yeah, I do like small commercial deals. I haven't done anything large, but my last one is I help. I'm working on that. You know, I've been taking the developers classes. I've taken the commercial, commercial real estate 101. I've sold like a church that the Woodward Bar and Grill that used to be a church.
Okay.
He converted the owner converted that to the Woodward Bar and Grill. So that was one of the commercial buildings that I sold. Okay. And then on McNichols there was a dry cleaners. My friend who's also part of my Jim Dandy Ski Club, he wanted a building because he builds cabinets. So it was a former dry cleaners. The family was going out of business because they had to take care of family. So they took all the dry cleaning equipment out. He got two buildings, and he's working, rehabbing the inside to do his cabinet building business. And so I've done like stuff like that. Okay.
But those are the deals that help build our community, because it's building small businesses. That's what keeps us going.
And it's really funny because there's a lot of different ways for a business to get a building, right? Mm-hmm. A lot of these places, like, they will do a land contract for some of these small ones if you give them enough down. And then I also had a old State Farm insurance brokerage. He retired last year and said, I need to sell my building. Well, he actually sold it to somebody that he knew that had a tax service on a land contract. When I tell you it was a sweet deal, it was a sweet deal. Yeah. And he said, I was willing to give that to anybody who had a business who was needing a start.
Wow.
And he said, this is what we need to do to help people. Absolutely. And that's what he did. I mean, it was really literally a little bit down, a reasonable amount per month, extended over some years. And
I'm sure that made you feel good.
It did.
Helping somebody to, not just get a building or the person just sell a building, but to help elevate somebody.
It helped me because I'm looking at the potential for myself. Mm-hmm. I look at the potential for others, and now I have stories to tell.
Yeah,
right? Where I can tell people.
How can people contact you?
You can contact me anytime. How about that?
Don't say anytime.
Well, within reasonable hours. My number is 313-318-5093. If you have questions about Saturday, you can contact me. If you have a real estate need, you can contact me. If you're looking for resources, I have from my housing counseling, because I'm a HUD-approved housing counselor, and we do classes every second Saturday. And most of these classes are what you need for applying for down payment assistance. So if you go to a lender and you're looking at the Detroit $25,000 down payment program, or getting $10,000 from MISHDA, or the $500 or $7,500 that the bank is offering, in most cases they want you to attend a home buyer education class and have counseling and get a certificate so that you can apply. So if you're looking for the $25,000 for the city of Detroit, I have no information as to when it's going to come, except that it's supposed to be coming.
It's supposed to be coming back.
But if you really want to find out more, you got to come on Saturday, because maybe it's going to be out then, Maybe it won't, but we'll have one of the entities that actually was administrating the program, to have a conversation. So if she does
Any other programs?
if she does know something, she'll gladly, let you know. But at this point, we don't know when the money is going to be re-released. But there were people that were on they had a waiting list because there was a lot of people that applied, right?
Okay.
And some people fell through the crack.
Yep.
And then you had those people who are on the waiting list waiting for the money to come. To come back. But that still shouldn't stop you, because there's still city and county programs, there's state programs, there's seller gift, concessions that can be done. Family members can give you money, and you can stack those dollars to get what you need to purchase a home. So if you only have $1 and you need 25,000, we can try to stack up as much as we can to help you. And this is what we're trying to get people to understand.
So we got 60 seconds. What you want to tell people before? I know this time goes by fast.
I know, right?
What you want to tell people?
I just want to tell people, just understand that you should talk to somebody. You have options. When you remember your parents always saying, where there's a will, there's a way. And we don't understand that we don't know everything. We think, oh, my situation is just so dire, I'm not going to ever be able to get out of this, or it's going to take me forever. You'd be surprised. A lot of people are ready, and they don't know that they're ready because they don't know the game, right? They don't understand the numbers.
So if they come Saturday,
They're gonna
teach them the game.
They're gonna teach them the game.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from Miss Renae Johnson. Please come to our Building Black Wealth tour this Saturday. And you can contact her directly at
313-318-5093. See you at 19190 Schaefer Highway, 9:30, Saturday, April 13th. Be there or be square.
Be there or be square. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Beauty in the D Live, where we discuss power, wealth, and style on WJZZ Cool TV, the coolest station in the world. Till next week.
Detroit.